In the middle of the night, on a highway in Los Angeles, three black modified 1995 Honda Civics follow a semi-trailer truck. One of the masked pursuers breaks a windshield with a crossbow and grapples himself to the seat. He subdues the driver, and the Civics commandeer the truck. Managing to steal over $6 million in merchandise of TVs and electronics that were on the truck, LAPD officer BrianOConner Paul Walker is sent undercover on a joint LAPD FBI investigation to apprehend and convict the truck hijackers. Brian uses his cover job at the Racer's Edge, an aftermarket parts shop, to make connections and infiltrate the local street racing scene. One night, on a local street racing gathering, he enters his modified 1995 Mitsubishi Eclipse, Rumah Sakit 420 Bukaan, DF, into an illegal race with Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel, Edwin Ja Rule, and Rio Rule, the rapper. Bartering the pink slips due that he doesn't have enough money to bet in the race, asking for cash and respect if he wins the race. Brian, due to his lack of knowledge in racing, fires too much nitrous oxide, and he pressures the Eclipse's engine, frying it, resulting in the car automatically spinning out. With also causes Brian to lose to Dominic's modified 1993 Mazda RX-7. Although Dominic mocks him in front of the gathered racers and viewers, Brian gains Dominic's respect. However, when he arrives in time to prevent Dominic from being caught by police responding to the race, as they flee from the scene, Dominic and Brian accidentally venture into Southern California's Little Saigon, encountering Dominic's rival, Johnny Tran Rick Yoon, along with his cousin Lance Nugent, Reggie Lee and his gang, who open fire with submachine guns, rupturing a nitrous tank and destroying the Eclipse in the resulting explosion, but Brian and Dominic leave. Later on, Dom invites Brian to a party at his house, where he encounters with Dominic's friend, Vince Matt Schultz, who dislikes Brian because of Dominic's sister, Mia Jordana Brewster, who takes interest in Brian. At the party, Brian also meets Letty Michelle Rodriguez, Dom's longtime girlfriend, and the rest of the Dom's crew, Leon, Johnny Strong, an expert mechanic and also Dom's old friend, and Jesse Chad Lindbergh, a geek specialized in electronics. The next day, Brian delivers a totaled 1994 Toyota Supra to Dominic's shop and offers his talents as a driver to repay the debt incurred from losing the race. Brian begins dating Mia, while Dom and the rest of the crew goes to work restoring the Supra. Dominic also invites Brian to his house, showing him a 1970 Dodge Charger, which he built with his father. Dom tells him that his dad was a stock car driver. One day, his father was forced into a wall by another racer. He met the driver a week later and beat him up with a 3/4 torque wrench. This caused Dom to have a record, and he was forbidden to return to that track for life. Dom explains to Brian, "I live my life a quarter mile at a time. For those 10 seconds or less, I'm free." One night, Brian is checking under the local garages, hoping to find the Civics. Just as he was leaving without finding anything, he is knocked out by Vince. He is dragged to Dom, who asks Brian to reason himself at gunpoint. Brian lies, saying at the Racer's Edge, Hector Noel Guglielmi, the man who organized the race the other night, ordered 3 modified engines, leaving him in a false suspicion that he is planning something big. Probably for Tran. Dom takes him to Little Saigon, where they raid another garage. Inside, they discover that there is no engines inside the cars, but Brian notices shipment of electronics in the garage. They hide as Tran and Lance arrive, torturing the mechanic to give him the engines they requested. They manage to escape without being seen. This convinces Brian that Tran's crew is behind the hijacks and lets Sergeant Tanner, Ted Levine, and FBI Special Agent Bilkins Tom Barry know. The SWAT team, along with Brian, raids Tran's house and arrests him and his cousin Lance. But it is shown up that the electronics are legally bought, and that the only charges against them is minor parking tickets and unpaid speeding fines, forcing them to set them free as their ransom is paid. Bilkins and Tanner, Brian's superiors, return to their original theory that Dominic and his crew are the perpetrators. Tanner warns Brian not to let his feelings for Mia or his friendship with Dominic cloud his judgment and lead him too far from the case. And Bilkins, angered about the situation, gives Brian only 36 hours to break the case or he will be sacked from the job and lose his entire career. Meanwhile, with the Supra now fully prepped to race, Brian asks Dominic for information regarding his income, citing that the shop alone wouldn't pay for all his racing expenditures and that he wants to be in whatever he is doing. Instead, Dominic gives Brian an invitation to Race Wars, a massive street racing event held in the desert, and informs him they'll talk once Brian has proven his worth on the strip. On Race Wars, Jesse, wanting to impress his dad in jail, and Dom bets his modified 1995 Volkswagen Jetta A3, and Tran bets his modified 1999 Honda S2000. Jesse loses, panics and flees the track, prompting Tran to confront Dominic and demand that he retrieves the car for him. Dominic refuses, and Tran accuses him of informing on him, causing him to be humiliated in front of his entire family. In response, Dominic brutally beats Tran and is pulled off by Vince and 2 security guards. That night, Brian notices Dominic and his crew leaving the Race Wars. Brian realizes that Dominic is the hijacker and confesses to MIA, his status as an undercover cop. She is angry at Brian, but he says to her that everything that he said to her about their relationship is true, and convinces her to come with him to save her brother and his friends from the armed truck drivers. And they leave on the Highway 65 outside LA to catch up with Dominic and the rest of the group. Meanwhile, the attempted hijacking goes wrong when the truck driver fights back with a shotgun, causing Letty and Vince severe injuries. Brian tracks their location by triangulating Dominic's cell phone signal, and works with Mia to get Vince off the truck. Brian, realizing that Vince is in a critical condition, makes the difficult decision to blow his cover to the crew by phoning in for a medevac, revealing to Dominic that he is a police officer. The revelation enrages Dominic, but he contains himself and flees with Leon, Letty and Mia as the medevac arrives for Vince. Brian follows Dominic to his house and holds him at gunpoint to prevent him from fleeing, but Dominic explains that he is going to look for Jesse before Tran finds him. Just when Dominic points his shotgun to him, Jesse arrives, apologizing for his actions at Race Wars and pleading for Dominic's help. Moments later, Tran and Lance arrive on their bikes and perform a drive-by shooting, killing Jesse. Brian and Dominic chase them, with Dom in his Charger. He forces Lance's motorcycle off the road, severely injuring him, while Brian, after a short chase, manages to shoot and kill Tran. Afterwards, Brian and Dominic engage in a drag race, narrowly avoiding a passing train. Despite making the train track jump, Dominic crashes into a semi-truck and rolls his car twice. Brian pulls out Dom, with Dom assuming that he will be apprehended, but instead of arresting him, Brian hands over the keys to the Supra and lets him escape, making good on his promise to deliver a 10-second car. Dom escapes in Brian's car,